At this moment, in a classroom, the students had just finished a difficult exam, and their homeroom teacher was very handsome. But only Hori didn't like him, because he always teased her for having a flat chest. When they invited each other to go to karaoke together, Izumi immediately left early. So, everyone thought he was a true otaku, because he didn't fit in with others. Suddenly, Hori also had to go home. It turned out it was time for her to clean the house. In the afternoon, she had to go to school to pick up her younger brother. So, she couldn't fit in with everyone either. The next morning, Hori saw her younger brother fall. Luckily, a young man helped him. Hori saw the handsome guy come to her house. It made her feel flustered. So, Hori invited him into the house for a drink. At that moment, he felt Hori was very talented, because she handled all the housework. It shocked Hori. She didn't understand how he knew so much about her. It turned out he was Izumi. It surprised Hori, because in class, Izumi didn't stand out at all. The next morning, Hori invited Izumi to her house again. It surprised him. It turned out her younger brother wanted to play with Izumi. Meanwhile, Izumi felt very happy, because he thought Hori would avoid him, after she saw his appearance yesterday. So, Izumi thanked Hori. Suddenly, Hori complimented Izumi's smile, saying it was very beautiful, and she suggested he should tie his hair up. But, Izumi had to let his hair down to cover his 9 piercings. In the following days, Izumi frequently visited Hori's house, and she came to understand Izumi more. Very different from what she had imagined. At this time, they heard news that the supermarket would have a sale tomorrow. So, Hori was determined to buy eggs. However, the next day, Hori had a student council meeting, which left her feeling disappointed. So she messaged Izumi, asking him to buy them for her. This shocked him, because there were only 20 minutes left. So, he had to run as fast as he could to the supermarket. He even jumped over the school fence, which surprised the girl who saw him. By evening, Izumi managed to buy the eggs, which left him very tired. And Izumi told Hori that he had met Yuki, Hori's best friend, and she had seen another side of him, which made Hori feel uncomfortable, because she didn't want anyone else to know about Izumi's other side except her. This left him confused, but Izumi said that he also liked Hori's other side when she was at home, because she is very good at cooking, and she often yells whenever she gets angry. She even leaves her hair messy and has toned muscles. But Izumi feels great when he is with her. This makes Hori embarrassed, because she thinks Izumi is confessing to her. So, Hori keeps calling him an idiot. However, Izumi finds Hori's short-tempered personality very cute. The next morning, they feel the weather is very hot. So, Hori invites Izumi to go swimming. But Izumi is afraid people will see his tattoos. This surprises Hori. It turns out that's why he always wears long sleeves. Meanwhile, everyone notices that Izumi and Hori have become very close lately. Suddenly, Toru comes to talk to Izumi. He thinks Izumi and Hori are dating. This confuses Izumi, so he quickly denies it. But Toru feels they don't suit each other. At this moment, Izumi realizes that Toru likes Hori, which embarrasses Toru. Then, they head to their physical education class. Toru wonders why Izumi always wears long sleeves. Izumi shows Toru his tattoos, which surprises him, because he always thought Izumi was just an otaku. Toru also discovers that Izumi has piercings. At this point, Toru doesn't understand why Izumi can be so close to Hori. Izumi explains that they are just friends. So Toru asks, "Can I confess to Hori?" Leaving Izumi unsure of what to say. At this moment, Yuki is angry at Toru, because he skipped the physical education class. Meanwhile, Izumi is avoiding Hori, which makes her confused. Suddenly, Toru wants to talk to Hori privately. Then, Toru confesses to Hori, while Izumi thinks that from today, he won't be able to come here anymore. At this moment, Hori returns. She immediately scolds Izumi, because he said that he and Hori don't match. So, Izumi admits he is a boring person, and he thinks he will cause trouble for Hori. This makes Hori cry, because he didn't pay attention to her feelings. Hori then hits Izumi, making Izumi scared, because he has to endure Hori's wrath. At this moment, Hori says she rejected Toru. The next morning, Izumi sees Toru looking sad. So, he comforts Toru. At this moment, Izumi went shopping with Hori. Suddenly, he hears Hori singing. He feels that she sings very well. This makes Hori embarrassed. When she gets home, she meets her mother. It turns out that Sada told their mother about Isumi. So, she hears that Hori has a boyfriend. She immediately asks, "Is he cool?" And she wants to meet Isumi. Suddenly, Hori realizes she only knows Izumi's last name, but she doesn't know his first name. This makes her feel awkward. She doesn't know how to find out Izumi's name without asking him directly. She even sneaks a peek into the boys' locker room to see if anyone mentions Izumi's name. By the evening, she still hasn't figured out Izumi's name. Meanwhile, Hori's mother is very excited because she'll meet Izumi tomorrow. So, Hori thinks her mother will be able to ask for his name. The next morning, Izumi arrives at Hori's house, making her mother very happy. Meanwhile, Izumi feels awkward because this is his first time meeting Hori's mother. When Hori returns, she gets angry because her mother and Izumi had a private conversation. So, she still doesn't know Izumi's name. Izumi finds Hori very strange because she secretly looked into the boys' locker room. So, Hori explains the reason to Izumi, which makes him laugh. After that, Izumi writes his full name for Hori, and Izumi asks her to read his name. This makes Hori feel shy. She thought Izumi didn't know her name. Unexpectedly, he knows her full name. This makes her feel disappointed because she thinks she's so stupid. The next morning, the student council gave Hori a lot of work. By the afternoon, she still couldn't go home. Meanwhile, Izumi and Toru feel like they can't help at all because they're both bad at studying. It turns out that the person who asked Hori for help was the student council president, Sengoku. He is very popular with many female students. So, Izumi thinks that Hori also likes Sengoku. Suddenly, Remy comes to find Hori to get some documents. It turns out she's Sengoku's girlfriend. At this moment, they feel that Hori is very pitiful because she always has to do so much work in the student council. Finally, she is able to go home. But, Izumi feels that Hori is very tired. Suddenly, Remy bumps into him. This makes her worried because she's in a hurry. So, she accidentally leaves behind a set of documents. The next morning, Izumi sees people gathering around Hori. It turns out that Sengoku is blaming her for losing a set of documents. But, she remembers giving Remy all the documents. This leaves Hori unsure of what to do because she is not at fault. When Hori is about to apologize, suddenly, Izumi steps forward. He headbutts Sengoku. This surprises everyone, and he gives the documents that Remy dropped to them. So, everyone realizes that it was Remy's fault. In the end, everything is resolved. At this moment, Izumi doesn't understand why Hori always has to listen to Sengoku. This makes her feel confused. It turns out that Sengoku is Hori's childhood friend, and she has always teased him. She even always makes Sengoku do chores for her. The next morning, Sengoku meets Izumi, which scares him. At this moment, Toru tells Izumi that Hori's birthday is coming up. So, Izumi doesn't know what to give her as a gift. That evening, Sada asks Hori, during summer vacation, Izumi will come to visit every day, right? Suddenly, Hori realizes she doesn't know when Izumi will stop coming to her house. The next morning, Sada and Izumi give Hori a birthday gift, which makes her very happy because Izumi gives her a collection of the latest trending songs. She doesn't understand how Izumi knows she likes this. It makes her very happy. But, they realize that in one more year, they will graduate. At this moment, Izumi remembers his childhood. He was always disliked by his friends because they saw him as strange. So, Izumi couldn't make friends with anyone. Then, he started piercing his ears by himself until he was in the same class as Hori. She took the initiative to start a conversation with Izumi. That's when Izumi began to have feelings for Hori. Back to the present, they have started a new school year, while everyone is very happy because they get to stay in the same class with each other. Izumi feels out of place because he doesn't know if he can continue to fit in with everyone. It turns out that before, Izumi was always left out of group assignments. But, everyone worked together on a group assignment with Izumi. This makes him begin to feel the sense of having friends. At this point, Toru comes to talk to Izumi. He asks Toru what he thinks about him. So, Toru starts listing Izumi's bad traits. But, Toru thinks Izumi is very kind, and if he tied his hair up, he would look more handsome. This makes Izumi feel happy. This is the first time he has felt like he has friends, because before, everyone always saw him as a weird person. When they returned to class, they were scolded by Hori. because they still hadn't finished the group assignment. But Izumi sees Hori's smile, which makes him feel very warm. At this moment, Hori meets Remy. This makes Hori feel awkward. Suddenly, she asks, "You're Izumi's girlfriend, right?" But Hori denies it. So, Remy decides to flirt with him, which makes Hori uncomfortable. Thus, she disagrees, because Hori won't let anyone have Izumi. And she says, "Izumi is mine." After that, Hori runs away. At this moment, Hori keeps thinking about Izumi. By afternoon, Sada went to play football. Suddenly, Izumi comes to find him. But only Hori is at home. So, they eat cake and watch a horror movie together, which makes Izumi scared. Suddenly, Hori's mother announces that she'll be home late. Izumi realizes it's just him and Hori at home. But Hori wants to continue watching more horror movies, which makes Izumi anxious, because he has to watch all the horror movies with Hori. At this moment, Izumi notices that Hori's fingers are crooked. So, he compares his hand with Hori's, while Hori feels that Izumi's hands are bigger than hers. Suddenly, she holds Izumi's hand and says, "I like you." This makes Hori embarrassed. So, she says she likes his hands. At this moment, they are still holding hands. This makes Izumi feel warm. Suddenly, Sada returns home. So, they quickly separate. The next morning, Toru hears Remy telling the story of how she teased Hori. And Hori said she wouldn't let anyone have Izumi. This makes Toru disappointed. At this moment, Hori notices Izumi's face is injured. It turns out he had fought with Toru. This makes Hori angry. When she's about to scold Toru, she realizes Toru's face is also injured. So, Hori asks Toru why they fought. But Toru says he lost to Izumi. It turns out that last night, Toru went to Izumi's house. Toru said that Hori likes him. But Izumi kept denying it, and he said they're just friends. This made Toru angry. So, he hit Izumi. Unexpectedly, Toru accidentally hit Izumi's face. This made Izumi furious. So, Izumi defeated Toru. At this moment, Toru feels guilty toward Izumi. So, Hori tells them to make up. After that, Izumi goes to find Toru to reconcile. The next morning, Toru sees many documents scattered on the ground. It turns out Sakura dropped it. So, Toru helps Sakura pick up the documents. It turns out she's also a member of the student council. Toru thinks Sakura is very diligent. This makes Sakura feel embarrassed. Afterward, Toru talks to Izumi, and Izumi gives Toru an ice cream. But Toru can't eat the melon flavor. Suddenly, they run into Sengoku. So, they invite him to have some ice cream. But they notice their tongues have changed color. This amuses them. At this moment, Sengoku feels that it's too hot. So, he invites everyone into the air-conditioned room of the student council president. While Hori and Izumi go to buy drinks, Remy curiously asks if Izumi and Hori are dating. She feels that Toru suits Hori better. This surprises Sakura, because he likes Hori. At this point, everyone feels that Hori and Izumi are taking too long to buy drinks. So, Toru thinks they are secretly doing something. Eventually, both of them return with drinks. Suddenly, Izumi apologizes. He says he accidentally did something. This makes Toru despair. He thinks that Hori and Izumi have done something suspicious. It turns out that Izumi had dropped Toru's can of soda earlier, which caused the soda to splash. So, Sakura gave Toru a towel. At this moment, Izumi had arrived at Hori's house to study. But his air conditioner was broken, which made them feel very hot. Izumi revealed that he usually sleeps without clothes, which surprised Hori. And she was also curious about what Izumi would look like without a shirt. So, she wanted to see Izumi's tattoo. Unexpectedly, he immediately took off his shirt. This made Hori angry, because he was too easygoing. She was afraid Izumi would take off his shirt in front of others like that. It turned out that Hori felt embarrassed when Izumi took off his shirt. At that moment, Izumi told Hori, yesterday, he met his middle school classmate. His name was Shindo. It turned out that Shindo had always had to repeat a grade, because he was very bad at studying. So, he was jealous of Izumi. And he thought Hori was Izumi's girlfriend, which made him feel uncomfortable. At that moment, Izumi said that he had explained things to Shindo already. But Hori felt that he didn't need to deny it. Suddenly, Shindo sent a message to Izumi, which made him blush, which made Hori curious. But Izumi immediately deleted the photo, and he called Shindo to scold him. Hori felt that they were very close to each other. So, she was curious about what Izumi was like in middle school. The next morning, Hori accidentally ran into Shindo. Suddenly, Izumi also saw them, which made him worried, because he was afraid Shindo would say something to Hori. He even hit Shindo without hesitation. So, Toru and Hori realized they were close friends, while Izumi just wanted to chase Shindo away. At that moment, Izumi remembered his middle school years. He was always abandoned by everyone. But, only Shindo would talk to him normally, which made others uncomfortable. So, they advised Shindo not to get close to Izumi anymore, because he was very eccentric. But, Shindo still liked hanging out with Izumi. So, Izumi realized that Shindo was the one who helped him change in middle school, and Hori was the one who helped him change in the present. The next morning, Hori had a fever, which made Sada worried, but she still wanted to go to school. So, Sada forced her to rest. When Hori woke up, she found Izumi sitting next to her, which surprised her. It turned out that Izumi came here to take care of her. When Izumi was about to go get some water, Hori stopped him. She didn't want Izumi to leave, because Hori's mother always had to go to work. She was rarely around Hori, which made Hori feel very lonely. At that moment, Izumi said, "I will always be by your side," which made Hori feel more at ease. After he helped Hori take her medicine and rest, Izumi said, "I like you." When Izumi left, it shocked Hori, because he was confessing to her. The next morning, Hori felt better, but she still skipped school, because she kept thinking about Izumi's confession from yesterday. So, she didn't know how to face him. At that moment, Sada saw Izumi walking to school with another girl, which surprised him. By afternoon, he had told Hori about it, which shocked Hori. So, Hori thought Izumi was cheating on her, which made her feel very uncomfortable. But, she didn't know how to ask Izumi about it. The next morning, Hori went to class. Toru felt that Hori was acting strangely. She didn't even want to get close to Izumi. So, Toru told Izumi about this. At that moment, Hori was still avoiding Izumi. Suddenly, Izumi found her, which shocked her. Izumi thought she was avoiding him because of his confession. But, Hori asked, "Who is that girl?" which surprised Izumi, and he realized Hori was asking about Chika. He even called Chika by her name. Although Izumi explained, Chika was Shindo's girlfriend. Because they fell, Chika had to hold onto Izumi's hand. But, Hori was still angry. She threw a book at Izumi's face and ran off. At that moment, Izumi realized, Hori was angry because he called Chika by her first name, while Hori was worried, because she thought Izumi would see her as violent. Suddenly, Izumi showed up at Hori's house, which shocked her. After Izumi returned the book to Hori, they didn't know what to say. Suddenly, Hori apologized, because she had thrown a book at his face. At that moment, Izumi also explained, it turned out that he didn't know Chika's last name. So, he called Chika by her first name. This made Hori happy again. At that moment, she told Izumi, "I heard your confession that day." Suddenly, Hori's father came home, which surprised Izumi. He then asked, "Who is Izumi?" And he noticed Izumi's ear piercings, which made him very intrigued. But, Hori immediately stopped him. After that, he asked Hori to help him make food. When Izumi wanted to go home, he pulled him back to stay. At that moment, he kept interrogating Izumi, but Hori kept stopping him. Meanwhile, Izumi was constantly teased by him, which made him want to go home. Suddenly, he asked Hori, "Izumi is your boyfriend, right?" which made them both embarrassed. But, Hori admitted it, which made Izumi feel shy. But, Hori's father didn't accept a son-in-law with long hair. So, Izumi said he would cut his hair, which made Hori's father happy. Thus, he asked Izumi how he felt about dating his daughter. Izumi said that he liked Hori. Suddenly, Hori's mother came home, which made her worried, because she hadn't prepared dinner for him. At that moment, Hori apologized to Izumi for her weird father. Suddenly, she held Izumi's hand, which made Izumi feel very warm, and he wanted to stay by Hori's side more. This made Hori feel embarrassed. So, she ran home, while Izumi was also feeling embarrassed. At that moment, Izumi called Toru, and Izumi told Toru that he was dating Hori. Although Toru congratulated Izumi, he was very sad, because he also liked Hori. The next afternoon, Sakura noticed that Toru seemed to be sad. Suddenly, she met Remy. Remy felt that Sakura was acting strange today, while Sakura felt jealous of Remy. because she was beautiful and cute. And Sakura told Remy that she liked someone. Sakura felt insecure because she wasn't as cute as Remy. But Remy said that Sakura looked very cute when she blushed. At that moment, Izumi met Toru. He realized Izumi was feeling awkward. But Toru told Izumi not to worry too much about it. After that, Izumi and Hori studied together. Izumi wanted Hori to call him by his first name, which made them feel embarrassed. So, Hori called Izumi a fool. The next morning, Kyosuke was very happy, because he was going home. Suddenly, he saw Izumi at his house. So, he continued teasing Izumi, and he invited Izumi to take a bath with him. Hori heard yelling from the bathroom, and she realized her father had seen Izumi's tattoos. After they finished dinner, Kyosuke noticed that his chopsticks were disposable ones. While Izumi had his own chopsticks here, he even has his own soft blanket, which made Kyosuke uncomfortable. So, he insisted that Izumi stay and sleep over with him. At that moment, he asked Izumi what he liked about his daughter. When Izumi was about to answer, Kyosuke fell asleep. The next morning, Izumi and everyone woke up. So, he prepared to go to school with Hori, which surprised their classmates. Since Izumi was staying with Hori, people started gossiping about Izumi and Hori dating. They even teased Hori for choosing such a weird person like Izumi, which made Izumi uncomfortable. So, he decided to make a change. The next morning when Izumi arrived at school, everyone was surprised. Hori was also shocked, because he had cut his hair. Unexpectedly, the girls started gathering around Izumi. Suddenly, he felt that Hori was like an ice queen, which made everyone feel cold. But everyone liked Izumi's new look. At that moment, they ran into Shindo, which surprised him, because Izumi's change was so unusual. Later, Shindo gave Hori and Izumi a lot of candy. It turned out that he had won a prize on TV. Suddenly, Izumi found a cheese-flavored candy. He knew that Shindo didn't like the taste of cheese, but he still fed it to Shindo, which made Hori suspicious of their relationship. While Hori ate a clay-flavored candy, suddenly, Izumi kissed Hori to taste the candy flavor, which surprised her. The next morning, Izumi saw a girl staring at him. Toru didn't understand why she was staring at Izumi. While Hori was still thinking about the kiss with Izumi from the day before, this girl kept following Izumi. So, he decided to ask her. Suddenly, she asked, "When will you break up with Hori?" Which surprised everyone. They thought Izumi was seeing two people at once. It turned out her name was Sawada. Afterward, he told Hori about this. Unexpectedly, Sawada kept following them. So, Hori asked her what she wanted. Unexpectedly, she said, "I like you," which surprised everyone. It turned out that the person she liked was Hori. So, Izumi tried to win Hori back from Sawada. But neither of them was willing to back down. At this moment, Sawada continued to try to win Hori's favor. However, Izumi pulled Hori back to class. After school, Izumi continued to meet Sawada. He didn't understand why Sawada kept following him. It turned out they lived in the same apartment complex, and their homes were next to each other. Suddenly, Sawada realized she had forgotten her key. So, Izumi invited Sawada into his house, which made Sawada very happy. She felt that Izumi was very good at taking care of others, which made him laugh. Suddenly, Sawada told Izumi that she had an older brother. Afterward, Sawada went back to her home. Izumi said, "Next time, come here for cake again." At that moment, Izumi's mother told him that Sawada's older brother had passed away a year ago. The next morning, he met Sawada again. It turned out she had been following Izumi to meet Hori. Suddenly, a group of young people came and teased Sawada. But Izumi chased them off. At that moment, Hori also arrived. However, she still saw them arguing. In the evening, Izumi was watching a horror movie with Hori, which frightened Hori's father. So, he ran away to hide. Suddenly, Hori asked, "You haven't done anything to me, have you?" She saw Hori feeling shy, which made Izumi laugh. Just as Izumi was about to kiss Hori, suddenly, Kyosuke walked in, which made Hori angry. So, she slapped him. The next afternoon, Yuki asked Toru to help her carry the trash, and she invited Toru to watch a movie with her. Suddenly, Toru bumped into Sakura, which caused her shirt to get wet. So, Toru ran off somewhere, while Yuki was apologizing to Sakura. Suddenly, she asked Yuki, "Are you dating Toru?" But Yuki immediately denied it, which made Sakura feel at ease. At that moment, Toru returned. It turned out he had gone to find a shirt for Sakura, which made her feel embarrassed. But she really liked Toru's shirt. Afterward, Sakura went to the student council. She asked Sengoku what he liked about Remy, which made him embarrassed. But he told Sakura that Remy helped him become stronger, and he felt like Remy was protecting him. Sakura remembered Remy's encouragement, which gave her more confidence. So, she decided to try. The next morning, Sakura went to return the shirt to Toru, and she gave him some cakes, which made Toru very happy, while Sakura felt embarrassed. At that moment, Hori felt that Yuki was acting strangely, because she no longer hung out with Toru as often. It turned out that Yuki was upset because Toru was getting close to Sakura. And Sakura also gave Yuki some cakes. Although Yuki didn't like them, she still ate them. The next morning, Yuki asked Izumi to teach her how to bake, but Yuki's cake ended up being burnt. They realized that Yuki was baking for Toru. Suddenly, Toru arrived, which shocked Yuki. He saw Yuki's cake, and Toru ate it, because he recognized that Yuki had put in a lot of effort to make the cake. Even though the cake was bad, he hoped that next time, the cake would taste better. This made Yuki very happy. At that moment, Hori was feeling sad, because Izumi had asked for time off to go back to his hometown. But they could still text each other. Suddenly, Izumi's phone ran out of battery, and he didn't bring his charger. While Hori was feeling worried, because she hadn't received any messages from Izumi. But she had to wait another 3 days. This made her lose focus. Everyone felt that Hori was acting strangely. Today was the day Izumi would return. This made Hori very anxious. So, she decided to run to Izumi's house. While Izumi had just returned home, suddenly, he saw Hori's message. Izumi immediately ran out to find her. By coincidence, they bumped into each other in the elevator. Hori immediately hugged Izumi, feeling relieved that he had returned. At that moment, Hori and Izumi were about to watch a movie together. But Hori kept choosing horror movies, which scared Izumi. She couldn't even hold his hand. So, Izumi went to the bathroom. Meanwhile, Hori thought that Izumi wanted to leave her, which made her feel disappointed. She felt like she wasn't cute enough. But Izumi comforted Hori. He said, "The person I love is no other girl, but it's you." This helped Hori regain her confidence, and she hugged Izumi. Because it was raining, Izumi stayed in Hori's room, and they kissed. The next morning, Sada cried, because he thought Izumi had taken his sister away. But Izumi reassured him, saying that he hadn't taken Hori away. Izumi then asked Sada if he could entrust his sister to him. At that moment, Remy was reminiscing about when she started dating Sengoku. She saw Sengoku reading a book, and she thought it was a manga. It turned out to be a literary book. While Remy enjoyed reading novels, they started exchanging books with each other, which made Sengoku very happy, because he was able to make a friend. He kept lending Remy books. It turned out Sengoku had a lot of books at home. Suddenly, Remy found a book about the apocalypse. She joked that during the apocalypse, she would use all her money to buy candy, which surprised Sengoku. The next morning, Remy returned the book to Sengoku. But his two friends felt jealous. Sengoku told them that they liked Remy, but Remy wasn't interested in them. Meanwhile, Sengoku was worried, because he was afraid they might misunderstand. In the afternoon, Remy went to Sengoku's house again to borrow books. Suddenly, she asked, "If tomorrow is the apocalypse, what would you do?" Sengoku replied, "I would confess to you," which shocked Remy. While Sengoku was feeling embarrassed, Remy said that she liked him too, which made her very happy. Back to the present, Hori was painting Izumi's toenails. Suddenly, Izumi placed his foot on Hori's head. It turned out he wanted to experience the feeling of leveling up, since he had been suppressed by Hori for too long. So, he apologized to Hori. At that moment, Hori thought that this was the real side of him, and she imagined Izumi scolding her, which made her excited. The next morning, Toru felt that Izumi was acting strangely, which surprised everyone. It turned out that Hori had forced him to do that, because she wanted Izumi to be more aggressive. But he still couldn't bring himself to do it. At that moment, Hori and Izumi were bringing documents into the classroom. However, everyone had gone for lunch. So, it was just the two of them in the room. Izumi realized that Hori wanted to see him be more violent. So, He grabbed her collar and scolded her. By chance, two female students saw this, which frightened them. Meanwhile, Hori was very pleased. After they returned to the classroom, they both noticed that Yuki was acting strangely. So, she told them that she had just received a confession, but she didn't know how to decline. Thus, Izumi suggested that Yuki find someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. He then called Toru. Toru agreed to pretend to be Yuki's boyfriend. So, he held her hand, and they went to meet the person who confessed to her. Even though Toru was just pretending to be her boyfriend, Yuki felt very happy. Suddenly, the guy who confessed to Yuki arrived, which shocked Toru, because he was very handsome. It turned out his name was Yanagi. Hori thought that Toru was completely overshadowed by him. But, Yuki still rejected Yanagi, which confused Hori because she didn't understand why Yuki rejected him. Meanwhile, Toru was still in shock, because he felt completely defeated. After school, Yuki went to find Yanagi. She thought he had confessed to the wrong person. But Yanagi said, "The person I confessed to is you." Suddenly, Hori's group arrived, and they immediately realized that Yanagi's eyesight was very poor. At that moment, Hori tied Izumi's hair, which made the other girls very excited, causing Hori to become jealous. So, she hit Izumi. At this point, Hori was still angry with Izumi, because the other girls kept sticking to him. Suddenly, he ran into Tanihara. Tanihara began to tease Izumi. But, Izumi didn't dare to say anything to him. It turned out they were the bullies who used to pick on Izumi back in middle school. This made Hori angry. So, she hit them. At that moment, Shindo saw Tanihara being beaten, which surprised him. Meanwhile, Tanihara was still obsessed with Izumi's girlfriend, because she was so terrifying. Shindo warned him not to tease Izumi like he used to. At that point, Hori wanted to see Izumi's violent side. So, she kept pushing him to show it again. Suddenly, they ran into Shindo. He scolded Izumi for not giving in to Hori. While Hori was getting angry, Izumi wanted Hori to keep her distance from Shindo. So, he acted violent and pulled Hori away. At that moment, Tanihara's group was standing in front of a convenience store, and suddenly they met Hori again. She scolded them for littering, which scared them. So, Tanihara picked up the trash. Suddenly, they saw Izumi daring to hit Hori, which made Tanihara scared, while Hori was very happy, because Izumi's violent behavior pleased her. After that, Izumi went to Hori's house. So, Izumi told Kyosuke about Hori. He suggested that Hori might be wanting to see a big change in Izumi. Izumi understood the situation. Suddenly, Hori kicked them out of the house, because she needed to clean the bathroom. The next morning, Toru and Izumi met Taiki. But, he turned his back and walked away. Izumi realized that Taiki hated him, because Taiki also liked Hori. Suddenly, Izumi remembered that he had left his phone in the classroom. Coincidentally, he ran into Taiki again. Taiki saw Izumi looking for his phone. So, Taiki helped by calling his number. It turned out Izumi had left his phone in his pocket. But, he hadn't realized it. This made Taiki angry, because he couldn't believe someone like Izumi could be dating Hori. So, Izumi asked, "Do you dare hit Hori?" But, Taiki said he couldn't do that. So, he couldn't be with Hori. At that point, they met Hori. Thus, Izumi scolded her, which shocked Taiki, and Izumi told Hori to leave. This made Hori very pleased. At that moment, Taiki thought Izumi was very cool, because Izumi did things that Taiki didn't have the courage to do. The next day, Tanihara went to Izumi's family bakery. This surprised him. It turned out that he wanted to eat Izumi's bakery goods. But, the bakery was closed. So, Tanihara arranged to come back another day. This made Izumi very happy, because Tanihara was making up with him. Meanwhile, Tanihara realized that he had always ignored Izumi. Back in middle school, Izumi and Tanihara were tasked with taking care of rabbits. But, Tanihara had forgotten to bring food for them, which led to the rabbits dying. And he blamed everything on Izumi. Now, Tanihara felt as if Izumi had forgiven him, while Izumi was feeling happy, because he had made peace with Tanihara. The cold winter had arrived. So, Hori felt very cold. Suddenly, they ran into Tanihara. Hori saw them being awkward around each other, which made her angry, because she thought Tanihara was trying to steal Izumi away from her. But, Tanihara said that the person closest to Izumi was Shindo. because Shindo had worn Izumi's clothes before. Suddenly, Shindo also appeared. Hori saw them being close with each other, which made her furious. So, Tanihara dragged Shindo away. At that moment, Hori started to worry. She feared that Izumi might fall for another guy. So, she pressured Izumi. If he loved someone else, that person had to be a woman. The next morning, Izumi told his friends to stay away from him. Meanwhile, Yuki was shopping with her sister. Suddenly, she ran into Yanagi. Yuki's sister thought Yanagi was Yuki's boyfriend. But, when she found out that Yuki had rejected Yanagi, she was shocked. At that time, Yanagi still thought Toru was Yuki's boyfriend. So, he left. Meanwhile, Sakura heard rumors that Toru and Yuki were dating, which made her jealous. Yuki also knew that Sakura was misunderstanding. So, she talked to Remy about it, because she knew Sakura liked Toru, and she didn't want to deceive anyone anymore. By then, Yuki had missed several days of school, which made Hori worried. Toru hadn't received any messages from Yuki either. Meanwhile, Yuki's sister was forcing her to go to school, and she scolded Yuki, because Yuki had never let anyone around her know what she really wanted. She told Yuki that if she wanted something, she had to go after it. At that moment, Yuki checked her phone, and she received a message from Toru, saying that today Sakura had confessed her feelings to him. The next morning, Yuki returned to school, which made everyone very happy. Suddenly, Toru wanted to talk to her in private, while Yuki thought Toru had agreed to date Sakura. Toru told her that Sakura hadn't asked for his answer yet, because Sakura thought Toru and Yuki were already dating, and he didn't deny the idea of dating Yuki either. At that moment, Yuki felt that Sakura was very brave, because she had the courage to confess to Toru. While Yuki kept avoiding the situation, she felt that Sakura was warmer than she was. Meanwhile, Toru remembered the time when he pretended to be Yuki's boyfriend. He felt very happy being with Yuki, and he held Yuki's hand, which made them both feel very warm. Meanwhile, Sengoku thought Sakura was acting very strangely. Suddenly, she saw Toru and Yuki together, which made her very sad, because she had been rejected before she could even confess. Sengoku scolded whoever rejected Sakura, saying that there must be something wrong with their mind, which made Sakura cry. The next morning, Toru told everyone that Shu had a younger sister, which surprised them. It turned out that the year before, Toru had visited Shu's house, and met Shu's younger sister. But, she was very introverted, which was completely different from Shu's personality. Suddenly, Shu entered the classroom. Yanagi thought Shu was very funny, while Hori thought Yanagi was very polite. He only felt comfortable when he was with Yuki, which made Toru jealous. At that moment, Shu felt that everyone was very close to each other. So, he suggested that they start calling each other by their first names. But, Yanagi still felt shy. Suddenly, Sengoku also arrived. So, they used Sengoku as an example, because now everyone was very close to him. Thanks to that, Yanagi started to open up to them more. At that time, Izumi took Sawada to meet Toru and Sengoku. It turned out that she had a fear of boys. So, Izumi wanted to help her. Sengoku gave Sawada some chocolate to win her over. Thus, Toru also gave her candy. Both of them kept competing with each other. Shu also came, which made Sawada frightened, because he was too loud. So, Sawada didn't want to get too close to him, which made Shu feel hopeless. The next day, everyone noticed that Shu was sick. So, they told him to go to the nurse's office. By chance, he met Sawada, who was carrying heavy things. So, he helped her, which surprised her. But, Shu had a sore throat, so he couldn't talk, making Sawada misunderstand. She thought Shu was angry with her. The next morning, Shu had recovered, so, he was able to talk again. Meanwhile, Sawada was peeking at Shu from outside the door. Suddenly, she ran into Sakura. Sawada said that Shu was angry with her. But, Sakura had never seen Shu get mad at anyone. Suddenly, Shu saw Sawada, but, he was still too loud, which made Sawada uncomfortable, and she ran away. However, she was very happy, because Shu wasn't mad at her. At that moment, Shu noticed his little sister was feeling down. It turned out that today, Matoko was mocked by the teacher, because the school she wanted to apply to had very high entrance scores. When Shu found out that the school was very famous, he was shocked. Shu said, "Your grades are really bad. aren't they? Which made Matoko angry. It turned out that Shu realized Matoko had been trying really hard, because her books were all old and worn out. So, Shu told Matoko to keep trying, and if the teacher dared to continue mocking her, he would go and beat up whoever mocked her. This made Matoko cry. The next morning, Shu asked Hori to tutor his sister. When Matoko entered Hori's house, she met Izumi and Sada. At that moment, Hori noticed that Matoko looked very similar to Shu, but Matoko was much quieter than him. Hori noticed that Matoko seemed tense, so she wanted to have a conversation with her first. She told Matoko a lot about her older brother. Hori felt that they were very close, but Matoko thought that Shu hated her. Meanwhile, Shu was worried about his sister, and he also thought that Matoko didn't like him. At that moment, Christmas was approaching, so Sada wanted to invite his friends over to his house. Hori's father also wanted to invite his son-in-law over. Thus, Hori invited Izumi to spend Christmas at her house. But Izumi had to help out at his family's bakery on Christmas, which surprised Sada and Hori's father, because he wouldn't be able to come. So, Izumi quickly ran off. At that moment, Toru told Shu and Sengoku that he felt his relationship with Yuki was beyond friendship. But they weren't yet lovers. This confused Shu and Sengoku. Even though Toru really liked Yuki, he didn't know what to do to change their relationship. The next morning, Yuki went to find Toru. She wanted to go to Toru's house to play video games, which made him nervous, but he still agreed. By the afternoon, Yuki saw that Toru's house was very large. She didn't expect that when they entered, they would have to walk so quietly. Yuki thought that Toru was worried about his parents finding out. When they entered the room, Toru locked the door and took off his tie, which shocked Yuki. At that moment, Toru realized that they were alone together, making them both feel embarrassed. Suddenly, Toru's older sister tried to enter the room, because she realized that Toru had brought a girl home. But he stopped her from coming in. Yuki thought she was Toru's sister, and she saw Toru, which made her very happy. So, she invited Yuki to have some cake. At that moment, Toru explained to Yuki that she was the family's maid, named Yashira. It turned out that Yuki had asked too many questions, which made Toru afraid she would figure it out. Toru saw that Yuki was worried, so he patted her head, and then suggested they play video games together, which made them both happy. Afterward, Yashira came in with the cake, and they realized that it was from Izumi's family bakery. The next day, Remy invited Sengoku to spend Christmas at her house, which made him nervous, but Sengoku wanted her to come to his house instead, which made Remy cry. So, everyone decided to punish Sengoku. It turned out that Sengoku was really scared of going to Remy's room, because she collected a lot of insects for decoration in her room. At that moment, Hori's mom was very happy, because she saw Hori's grades were very good. Suddenly, Hori realized she was about to graduate. She didn't know what she would do after graduation. Finally, Christmas came, so everyone went out together, while Shu bought a lot of food for Matoko, which made her very happy, while Sengoku was worried, because he was afraid of the insects at Remy's house. At this time, Hori's father still wanted to meet Izumi, but Hori said that he was very busy today. Suddenly, Izumi was bringing cakes to Hori's house, which made everyone very happy. But after a while, Izumi had to leave, which made everyone disappointed. So, Hori saw him off. At this moment, Hori said that they were about to graduate, although she still didn't know Izumi completely. But she wanted to be with Izumi forever. So, Izumi said, "Let's get married," which made him shy. But Hori promised, "I will make you happy," which surprised Izumi, because he was supposed to say this instead, while both of them were shy. Suddenly, his mother called, so Izumi had to go back to the bakery right away. At this moment, Izumi and Hori were able to go on a date together, which made Hori very happy, because she got to go with Izumi. The next morning, Yuki was worried, because their graduation ceremony was coming up. So, everyone had to take their personal belongings home. Izumi saw that Toru had a lot of things. At this moment, Shu also arrived, which surprised everyone, because he brought very few personal belongings. It turned out that he brought a little bit home every day. Suddenly, everyone remembered they still hadn't returned the movie discs to Shu. So, he had to take a lot of movie discs home. At this moment, Izumi was sitting in the heated table with Hori. But Hori had fallen asleep. So, Izumi let Hori lie on his lap. He realized, if he hadn't taken Sada home that day, he wouldn't have gotten close to Hori. And he wouldn't have been close to the others either. Izumi would always be lonely until graduation. Suddenly, Hori woke up. She didn't understand why Izumi was so absent-minded. Izumi asked, if they weren't connected, would there be another world? But Hori said they were meant to be together. So, Izumi thought, destiny would always connect people together. Finally, the graduation ceremony arrived, while Sengoku was preparing to give the speech. Suddenly, Izumi sneezed, which made everyone laugh. This made Sengoku nervous. So, he couldn't read the speech smoothly. After that, he scolded Izumi. Fortunately, Izumi managed to escape to the rooftop. There, he met his past self. He realized how much he had changed, which made him very happy. While everyone was taking pictures together, Toru met Sakura, which left him speechless. But Sakura thanked him, because she liked Toru, and this would be their memory. Suddenly, Yuki met Yanagi. He said he would invite everyone to travel together, because he was about to get his driver's license, which made Yuki very happy. At this moment, Hori's father also came to school to congratulate her, which made Hori angry, because he was dressed so sloppily. But he still wanted to take pictures with his son-in-law. After that, Hori invited Izumi to her house to celebrate, which made him very happy. And he remembered the first times he met Hori. She was the one who changed him, and she pulled Izumi out of the darkness. So, he will bring happiness to Hori. That's all for today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to support Oni-chan in the next videos. Thank you for watching. Love you all.